I'm bored, 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 bored. I'm bored, 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 bored. I am bored, 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 bored. And yet, I'm also doing a purpose to this experiment of really creating a particular issue of marking a territory for the sake of experimentation. Experimentation, as in, I'm going to clean that up. And I'm going to show the process of when you go from victimized refugee mode, where you're starting over, to, the party's over, and now it's time to clean up, even when you needed to take a break out to let your old ways die. So, basically, I'm going to try to do a cigarette butt count, and again, really get into the process of, even if I have to mark up my coat, I just know always keep your white separate from everything else. And showing, okay, when you've been put on the spot and distracted because, again, your unresolved issues of having to unpack your own luggage. Now I'm getting ready to pack it up and be very particular about what I keep, where I would much rather live off of a smaller bag than something a lot. Like, again, that's a complaint about women, and men are the same way if you really think about it. But it's one of those, if you have to just grab whatever you can and run, it's like you better run towards what makes the most sense. A child first, the pets, I catch you, okay? But what if you do keep, certain documents in the freezer? Again, if there's a fire, the freezer has a higher chance of surviving a fire. And again, you'd have a copy, but it's always good to have copies. And even then, what if I become a business person that provides, again, very, very fun, but also educational ways to keep your information safe. And again, making sure you contact the right people to have your information, like family members, and keeping, again, just it's sad how many children fall through the gaps and the cracks in the system, that it's time to really stop judging each other. So if I'm going to ever get into an ethics committee, what happens when this hits the floor or the wall or anything else? And then again, it's one of those, if it helps me become, a scientist, where, if there's an issue with paying for genetic labs to do work on whose child is whose, or who are you related to, and there's an inheritance, pending. Is there something where, again, there's protection for you that you're not aware of because, again, you were lost in the shuffle? So, I mean, I don't know really how far my potential will really allow myself to go. It's really self-limitations at this point. Am I going for the smartest person on the planet? I should strive towards that. However, there's someone already in place. And it's one of those, I don't care about outliving them or them outliving me. This is one of those, I'm not going to fight anybody over being the only one. I don't want to be like that. I would much rather go down with the ship than be the only person around. And even then, I know how to survive on my own. I know I could get by a lot with the kindness of strangers. It's just sad that, I'm the type of person that would learn the hard way so I could return after taking the long way home, barefoot on a few occasions, to where I could tell you, okay, it's not the worst, and even then you could wean off. And if there's damage, what can you do to offset? If there's an issue, judge me all you want, and if you want me to judge you back, very fine, if it makes it feel like equal. But even then, I'm the type that I'm not just going to criticize you. I'm going to help you correct yourself without a higher, holier than thou fucking judgment. Even if I do go holier than thou, I'd rather be about an a-hole about it, as in I'm wholesome about being actual. Okay, I'm not telling you just, I'm being actual. Okay, it's a mentalist thing. It's these crazy concepts now when it comes to really mastering yourself and, good health and balance, to where, you don't need to smoke. But these are a particular type of cigars, because I smoke cigars, not cigarettes. But even then, it's like if you're in the situation and if you're facing eviction, or let's say again you're suffering from abuse, let's say you're a military spouse and your spouse that deployed, again, if they're a war zone survivor, whether they were in the rear in the gear or in the front lines as a grunt, whether they were the tip of the spear or just a basic rifleman, nature is that there's if there's still war, there's a bunch of veteran troops. And if there's going to be draft, there's going to be a backlash. People forgot we got a lot of Antifa coming from the hippie baby boomers, because again, there was no adequate offset for when it came time to move into the suburbs. And again, we started killing off nature, and we started again. If the 50s seemed like a great time, but you really need to look at food in the 50s and what's happened since. And again, what was feeding children back in the Depression era. Whereas it was interesting, there's a video out that I'd like to link up in a playlist. But this child is asked, and again, he was a young man, like 12 years old, maybe 14. I couldn't tell you, but I mean, he had the cracky eatiness, like, okay, and then that's a growing boy. That's a time when, again, children, they may be small, but they need calories. So it was something where from all the meals, again, there was some funkiness where the children were asked if you had to eat this at school. It's like the children were so used to the ease of now supermarkets, they have no concept of what children were suffering through 100 years ago, and I imagine even before that. Well, the can of beans, and I don't even know if there was a way to keep them warm, but it was something where the can of the top pop, again, those need to make a comeback. But the top pop cans of beans, with the spoon, and I'm not sure if it was coffee. Again, it was like you're giving this to a child, but you got to remember, children were working. They were pulled out of school, and again, a lot of children were illiterate, but they were working the mines and whatnot, and again, the accidents and the need for cheaper products, or let's say cheaper labor, again, to be profit hungry, bloodthirsty, in the sense that you would rather have someone wear themselves down to a bone and make it harder for them to be empowered as equals, because you need to slave labor, because you don't have an issue, you have an issue with partnership, rather. You rather have dominance over someone. So if there's partnership, there's a problem. And I mean, the whole industrial age, again, the need to keep building bigger and bigger, and then taller up, and then again, the road to hell is just paved. But then it's one of those, we don't have the gum trees to even offer someone the ability to soak their feet in if they're going to be barefoot. So I've been doing some really tough hardening, to where I got cut again because my mom did a bit of a negligence with some broken glass, and again, the bacteria on it, to make sure that I kept my little stash so I could eventually get the lab out and start testing my own, to where, yeah, is this a lab coat, or, and it's one of those. I've been documenting, and again, it's funny, it's on my middle finger, but I've been documenting the whole issue of being under emotional stress, or again, adjusting, but there's still hope. I'm eating a little better, but again, because I was in starvation mode, it's having to slowly introduce food, and again, it's what would I do different, and having to follow up with people, but it's just trying to gather my notes. And on field day, I'm going to be doing a presentation with my elders, to let them know of the situation while I'm also recording it, and again, being open about sharing it with my family, and starting a fundraiser, and again, looking for a sense of order, where I will dedicate myself to be a grant writer. I'll be a pistolera, where I'll basically be the inspector general, the free agent, where again, it's my reviews. The power of the sword is my what is it, the pen is mightier than the sword. But then again, it's one of those when you can't tell them apart, then is it really the action that is where it's smart? It's smarts when you're freaking active about your therapy. It smarts when, people are seeing and say, damn it, I brought you down and you didn't stay down. I mean, I laughed and I got off on thinking you were suffering, and now it's like, damn it, obviously, fucking, you're not meant to die if you've been through all the shit, and look, obviously, there's a clue of how much is the disorder, and then who's to say I'm not faking it, But it's one of those, how do I fake this? And there's other scars that made sure to let people know, and even my probation officers, back in the day, it's like, imposters could try to pass off as me, but it's like, my scars have been out for a while. And again, the clothing and people knowing the certain things where when it comes down to it, even my voice could be fake, even my face could be fake, even my teeth could be fake. But it's like, what does your vibe and your heart tell you? What does your equipment tell you? What do you know really in the end about a person if it wasn't for how they treated you and how you treated them? And again, you observing and what you said and didn't say. Where maybe a kind word from you could have reassured someone going through a lot. It's like, yeah, you're going through a lot. I can't be there for you in this time, but yeah, my best wishes to get through, and maybe we'll see each other again, and make sure to say hi and catch me up how you've been. You know, where there's like a 10-year reunion coming up, where is 10 years enough, or what happened in 10 years? And again, it's all that sort of thing where what do you do from there? How do you make peace where it's like whatever achievement was the achievement, let it go? Or maybe there's something people weren't talking, or again, I don't know, but I was on some crazy freaking type of, I was on a crazy freaking type of storytelling trip where it was one of those things where, I'm sorry, I'm like, people throwing me off here. It was one of those things where it was necessary to finally relax and be like, you know what? I know there's a lot of misunderstandings. I know there's a lot of unresolved issues. I'll be the adult here. I've been through worse if I've lived many lifetimes, and I'm having, the slow introduction or reintroduction into my old self. And again, finding out who I could be in my new version. I just know that there's things I need to say to others, and others have to say to me. I'd like the opportunity to make amends whenever I can. And then also, if people want to make amends to me, I mean, I may thank them for at least the effort. I may not respond whether I'll forgive them or not forgive them, but I just at least acknowledge them. And there's some where it's like, I don't want to see you. I don't want to deal with you. I don't even want to. It's like just, like I've had that where there's someone I couldn't even, one of my rapists came to my line at Blockbuster Video. I'd ask my manager, take this guy, I can't come here. And I went to hide to go get my stuff to where I was like, I don't know what happened to that homeboy. But it was one of those, maybe his daughter suffered, to where it's like, you don't know the sins of this father are the sins of the daughter, you know. And then, another time where the other rapist, the one that instigated it, I had to make a pizza for his family when I worked at 2-for-1, and I didn't spit in the pizza. Because I was like, you know what? This is a restaurant, and this is, taking it personal. So I showed grace under fire because I didn't want to get fired. And, I was being undermined, so I was actually working dead in bullshit jobs. But it was one of those, this guy fucking fucks me up pretty bad, and I refused to spit in his food. Had his address. Exactly. I'm sure I could get back to where the old house was. But, freaking trying to walk home after being day raped by him and some other fool, and the other one's watching and taking my clothes, and it's like, customer service where my managers are like commending me that I could handle the long lines, and still keep upbeat and fast, accurate, where they gave me a manager key where if I was more emotionally backed up, I could have really moved up in the company. If simply opening the door with a genuine smile, welcome, to my restaurant. And it wasn't even mine. Even that restaurant, literally shat on me when I had to clean up someone's irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, but someone even left their freaking boxers at Carl's Jr. when I worked there, when it used to be an art store in Monterey Park. And I wasn't given the right equipment to, and I mind you, I took the cleanliness test. Actually was responsible for not being properly trained, and yet it was reflective of me. I don't know how that worked out, but I wasn't told to keep the dressing below the certain line of refrigeration. I was putting it up a little higher to give me more time to pour. Then again, the customers were giving me tips to be like, get out of here, Because, I mean, seriously, I mean, I'm cleaning up freaking shit. Excuse my French. And I don't have the proper equipment. Again, no gas mask, no ventilation. I mean, I needed a hazmat suit. And then I don't quit. And yet you yell at me, or a manager yells at me because I wasn't counting out fast enough and I'm having a bad day, instead of asking me, or again, it was one of those, that wasn't the way to go about it. So I quit on the spot without giving a professional 2 week notice. So it's interesting that, what I'm willing to do and what I'm not willing to take. And yet people asking me to take and take while they're taking from me and taking from me. And I'm being, everyone coming at me. So I just like to people to know I'm getting my stuff together. Not only am I going to show the disorder, I'm going to show everything nice and neat. I'm going to show how this is going to be lustrous again. I'm going to show how everything's put together. And it's one of those, if I have to put away clothes, to where if I lose it, I lose it. If I don't, I don't. If I get to it, I get to it. But at least it's organized. But I just know that I got some nice stuff, and some people would love to see me, die so they could be vultures and take from me. And then another time it's one of those, well, just to let everybody freaking know. My third eye ended up opening. So now this becomes an issue of, okay, religious persecution besides political persecution, personal vendettas, racial war, heritage war, national war. Okay, so many people had issues with me getting to be happy in America, following, my personal pursuit of happiness, that included my children, whoever their dads would be if it wasn't going to be my true love. But it was one of those, people were hell bent, excuse me. But people were just upset, like where they went beyond acceptable. Now it's one of those, I would much rather allow myself to be very honest and realistic that, unless you record yourself going through things, to show things where I'm always monitored, where I make sure I have the microphones on me at least, if not the camera, where it's like, yes, I do actually have a journalism pass that I need to go request help for getting the funds to be able to afford to have the Universal Life Church, where we're all God's children under the same universe. So if it is all inclusive, which is one count of excommunication, there's other counts, but it's one of those, there's also other people that I'm being advised by, excuse me, upstairs, that if people come at me, and again, people were ready to give me a lobotomy, not knowing that I actually was showing autism, but there was more to that story. The ignorance of, again, wanting to control and silence someone that just asks questions. Okay, what's so wrong with asking why? Can you please explain? Don't just get mad at me because I'm not doing it right, if you yourself have failed to teach me how to do it right in the first place. Okay, that's basic freaking union stuff. Okay, so again, there's so much to my story. I still remember when I was a cashier at Costco. And again, that's an adventure. And I gotta say, management upstairs, thank you for your kindness. I repay it. For the shop steward, I'm sure your supervisors would like to hear my report. For the other employees that kept their silence and were enablers, there's a reason I don't remember most of your names. For everybody else that had a good laugh at my expense, you do know karma charges. For everybody else that actually made a buck without cutting me in when it was exploiting me, I want damages besides actually the whole ownership. And you also know that your soul belongs to me, because you sold your soul basically for that one. It's one of those, I'm just being straight up. I mean, am I gonna do anything bad to it? No, that's not. I'm just saying that it's like I'm owning it for safekeeping. To where it's one of those. I mean, if you sacrificed your soul for the sake of freaking being stuck on me, I mean, that's some sick shit. But I mean, if you need to go there, then you're going to be blessing me. And even then, try to replace your ass and get you fucking reincarnated so you could go be a happy little kid somewhere else. And hopefully, I don't have to show up in spirit and smack you upside the head and be like, pinche chanclazo to the face, cabrón, hijo de la chingada, fucking don't start there. Don't comiences, güey, But yeah, either way, I'm also running for the patron saint of the suicidal and the suicides. Yeah, that's a funny one. So imagine that particular meeting when it comes time to report for official turning in for excommunication and advising my local, representatives of the Roman Catholic Church. I'm converging to the American Catholic Church. And, oh, I just noticed I was cascading. That's weird. But, it's something where the church, I wish could have done more for me. It's sad that they're still arguing over allowing females to be priests. I wanted to be a nun because I thought that's all I could be when I was a child, but the boys made it a point to rape me so I wouldn't be a virgin, and then, what happened after. But it's one of those, people have tried to convince me to go lesbian. No, thank you. I tried it. I'm still a gay man with fabulous fashion sense, and I like that I could give birth to children. And I mean, a man is more than his, body parts, but to say that a woman can replace a man in my life, not completely. And even then, it's like, I have dated women. No, thank you. Nope, 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 nope. Nope. I like hanging out with. I honestly, I think I would be happy with a, bisexual, transsexual, gay man that wants to keep his body parts. But it's one of those, once we commit, we commit, and the most we'll ever do is maybe CG, But I want the kind of sweetness and holy commitment that, again, it's like, I don't really care if you're an awkward one. I'm an awkward one too. I don't care if you have an accent. I have several. I'm sure you do too, depending on your moods, and again, what time of day, if you just woke up. And all I know is that I'm looking for someone that can see this and know that it's a good thing. Actually, let me put this up here. But it's one of those, when someone knows what this means, and who they're trying to protect, and again, watching over me. I'm looking for someone that's got a little bit of gypsy in them, someone that can rough it, and at the same time, it's one of those, is protective of me and my children, especially if his children should become mine, for as a supplement parent, or maybe the one that might end up being the last one to be standing, where life and limb. I mean, seriously, like, I would give my life to feed my children if it meant I die so they could eat. I mean, the smart thing to do is prevent the need for that. But even if I was going to go there, it's like, you guys need to know how to prepare me. You also need to know how to, and again, having to be the one to learn how to process, quote unquote, a chicken, or again, the family pets. Or how in Russia during the ugly, again, it was, why were people even forced to live out there? They should have been moved to where the weather's nicer, and again, migrate to where, if it's a property issue. What was really the problem that needed people to remain in these horrible conditions with the wrong type of food, to where people resorted to cannibalism? And then, is it one of those, because the children were not hardy, they were going to die, so either you ate them or you buried them? I mean, you don't waste food, not why. It's like, again, it's just, if people were so overeating meat and were more into smaller locations with smaller yards, and again, living off the land and making sure to conserve, that there is enough growing land and a proper ecosystem balance. I mean, again, it's just one of those things that, all I know is that people were more focused on my freaking face and my freaking looks, my clothing, my style, or whatever, my personality, my taste in music, again, though, what makes me charming. And they would much rather shit on that. And it's one of those, like asking my mother when I was telling a story in another rant video, where this, I don't know if I would put it in the suitcase, but I'm just telling you, I did find my old Mickey Mouse sheet, so that made me happy. But it was like, my mom's handing me clothes, and I'm like, Ma, I don't want clothes, I want a book, or at least, some tools, to where it's like, hey, if I ever got to be a sawbones, not to hurt someone, but it's one of those, I believe this is my old operation table when I was a Civil War medic or corpsman. I'm not sure what yet, but it was one of those, a sawbones. Sometimes you had to give someone whiskey because that's what there was. Put a tourniquet and freaking hope for the best. And then if there's, moss and stuff like that, it creates some penicillin. But, it was something where I hugged this table once it came to me, but then it was like ready to let it go. And it's like, no, I'm going to fight it. Because if I was reunited with this beauty, again, she needs a little bit of help. But who's to say that she can't become a masterpiece again? I mean, she already is. It's just, evolve. But again, if I get to stay and fight to where if there's going to be a revolution, I'd rather know the home turf advantage. And again, if I have to put the Red Cross flag up, and the white flag up to where it's one of those, you'll see the military flags to where it's one of those, the service members, if we do get martial law, they stop at my house to where they're passing by and they know they got the yellow ribbons and the flags to where they know that there's, sympathy there. And it's one of those, it's, again, letting people know it's a USO officially. Who's to say I can't open a USO? And again, I know not to be a one-woman USO and not that kind. There's some elders and plus possible cousins and their family to where they could if they could move in. And again, I have my familia here, and again my relatives come to where the house is still within the renting agreement. It's something where my mom wants to take off and not fight to even try, and she's trying to tell me that I can't come up with the rent money. I just needed to express myself, and now that I'm getting ready to close, I just wanted to say it's important for me to at least be willing to stay, because if I learn not to be squeamish about being a corpsman and actually train to be a medical doctor, and I become the type of doctor that it's one of those, there's nothing illegal about me having this. However, what I am not happy about, hello, what kind of shit is this? What kind of shit is this? Seriously, what kind of fucking shit is this? I should not be hearing that. Again, I'd be the type of stickler where it's like, who cleaned this gun? Who cleaned this gun? And look at this. Look at this shoddiness. What kind of bullshit is this? But, saying that I could operate, simple Phillips head. Take this off. Again, I'm careful with my fingers. I was electrocuted not too long ago. But it was something where this needs a new proper handle. However, because I am creating certain weapons, mind you, I'm not allowed to own, and I don't contest it yet because I'm not in a good position, but in the future I would. But, since people are all about Halloween, I'm working on it. And even then, I know I have the armory ready. But, besides props, this is, letting you guys all know, I am a spiritual type. I work with the dead as a psychic. Turns out that this is made out of palo santo. It's a very holy wood. Actually, a lot of these are. And I'm not sure if that was an orb. But it was something where, again, this is my staff, my wand, or one of a few. And I was showing how to work out, and again, it's one of those, if you're a conscientious objector that is against working with guns, it still doesn't mean you don't have a responsibility to your patients. Now, if I'm not allowed to use a gun, doesn't mean I can't find an alternative means where, now the law enforcement knows to, not sneak up on me. And if they do sneak up on me, they need to identify quickly, why I'm being detained. And again, it's one of those, once I know what my rights are and when I know when they're violated, and I have a really good memory, and again, know who to interview me to have, someone objective that could try to catch me on lies. And even then, it's one of those, I want hypnosis and, again, witnesses, and, I'm cooperating. However, my sensitive disorder was jealousy-based. Envy. It was malicious intent. And it's said that it goes beyond the need for therapy. It actually goes towards the need of imprisonment. So I'm being cool and outgoing about, being open again, rules of engagement, where I'm going to not only memorize them and make them into a little song so everybody knows, how they go. I'll also be open about how you could turn yourself from a child in a cage. And you don't think those children are going to be traumatized? Or you don't think those children could sue the United States government, if not Donald Trump, and all those voting in favor of that particular decision, as in centralize it with those fuckers? Excuse me. While I'm not on the job, I'm a talk officially, I'm allowed to have an opinion. Until I'm paid not to comment, it's something that I'm allowed, and even then, it's what, pleading the fifth? No, I'm not drunk on the fifth, but wait a minute. It's one of those things where, honestly, someone can only take so much abuse before they themselves have to ask themselves, do I blow up and become a mad stan, or do I become a public defender? So I'm thinking, you know what? Besides having the free legal aid, where it's like one way or another you're getting represented. You're not going to be left stressing out. And besides, you need help in addressing all this other stuff, to where it's one of those, the dream center, the dream, community center, the one that I really want. Okay, the one that, I would invoke the spirits of the dead to help me, in consultation. It's something where it's spiritually, again, in God we trust. In the goodness of a God we trust. In the goodness of a good God I trust. I just know I'm an all-American girl. I'm a natural-born citizen. I'm 41, don't look it. But I know that I got some time to catch up on a lot of information, to know it backwards and forward, to where if I'm asked on the street, a simple question, it's like, if I don't know the answer off the top of my head, then I could direct you like a librarian to where you can. And again, it's one of those things that, if I'm a conversationalist, I might spend my time, as an official secret shopper, calling the phone lines, visiting websites, and getting paid for reviews. And who's to say I can't offset all the other drama of people that had been stealing from me and, committing fraud under my name, trying to mess me up even further, where it's like, you know what? I could go from zero to hero, back to zero to hero, and I could stay hero. And even then, I know that any respected leader, when it comes to, when really the shit gets rough, it's those that suffer the most that will be kind to others, because they themselves would want the golden rule to apply to them. I've hugged the homeless. I've fed the homeless. I've unfortunately given alcohol, actually no, not alcohol, but cigarettes. So it was better cigarettes, but I've offered food. Again, meant for me, but I gave it to them. I've showed kindness in the psych wards. I've shown, more medical care and attention than the actual orderlies themselves in this last round. It was horrible, and I'm hoping to reconnect with the elder I really bonded with, and I believe I may have psychically figured out who her next of kin, or at least some relatives, could be, and get them reconnected. She's a beautiful soul, and she read my hands, and so she gave me the gift of another reading. There's another psychic that I met at another psych ward during Christmas back in 2010, and she also read my hands, and gave about the same thing, only she said in my 80s. Well, my other friend said in my 90s. So either way, I'm looking at about 50 years. Are they coming for me? Please tell them they're not coming for me, because I'm a little sensitive about that now. Are they coming for me? No. But the thing is, I do want to become a real doctor. I want to be the one that could offset the PTSD suicide rate. If it means that I actually have to take an oath of a holy kind, where it's like, I rather die and go through hell again than to ever harm someone willfully with anger and bitterness and spite, because I would not be able to face myself if I am ashamed truly of my shortcomings, to where I'm not just gonna be like death before dishonor. It's like, nah, man. Nah, man, suffering before dishonor. Or if I do dishonor, may I suffer, but then it's like, man, stop suffering. You know, you don't have to suffer. It's like, excuse me if part of my integrity is suffering in silence when I shouldn't be. Excuse me if the song, when universes collide, spoke to me enough that I wanted to show a demonstration of what it's like to get yourself back in shape, slowly when, you're back on the ground. How do you literally pick yourself up? I mean, we've gotten so far removed from how bloody, it got on this continent that we forget we are on, living on the burial ground. Who's to say in this room people didn't suffer ugly? Who's to say that I'm not having an empathic, reaction to, again, needing to cleanse this house and then seeing the blessings in disguise? Who's to say I didn't actually create a landmark, especially if, become an actual production company? Who's to say that, I didn't take after the other advocates? I've already called myself one. So what if I literally become that advocate where, let me understand the system. It takes me a while to go through it to really understand it. And then when I'm ready to, again, relay back what's being told to me, and again, if it makes sense to me, and again, that person that's informing me, then it's like, okay, well, now it makes sense. This is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want. What can you do for me? Or be like, okay, what is the limit of your scope when it comes to helping me? And again, it's, maybe I'm helping how to interview someone like me, to where next time I see someone and it's like, let me guess. And they're looking at me, what are you, psychic? We're like, actually, I am. All right, what do you need help with? Okay, hold on, let me pull out my phone and be funny about it. Alright, alright, you need a freaking Obama phone too? Alright, hold on, let me pull one out of my backpack. Alright, because I'm not one of the official distributors. And then it's one of those, okay, you need freaking medical insurance, you need a place to stay, you need a voucher 8, you need, alright, cool, let's see, alright, cool, let's see, are you hungry too? Well, I got some food I'm willing to share with you, my lunch, you got a piece of it, so, is that cool? I mean, you gotta trust my cooties or not, but it's sealed. Yeah, alright, go for it. Here you go. Here's some food. On some water, it's sealed in a, closed bottle. I mean, it's water. You want to trust it, you can use your pendulum if you want to trust it or not. But by the way, are you having any experiences with the thought police? Have you been seeing anything? And by the way, are you hearing voices, and what are they telling you? Okay, now have you questioned the voices? Do they get upset with you when, you start empowering yourself? Do they try to freak you out, like telling you, belittling things? Are you sure you're not hearing the voices of the living? Are you sure they're not chanting into something? Again, trying to use astral projection. Let's just say this stuff doesn't actually have a research if we have a show called The X-Files. I mean, who's to say that it isn't some sort of, experiment? I mean, people have suggested it. And then again, social programming, and then, who's to say that the people can't create their own, public broadcasting service? Oh, wait a minute, PBS exists already. Who's to say, publicly funded, radios, and even then, how do you legally join the airwaves? Keep the airwaves free, and even then, who's to say you can't still tap into airwaves of a television? Who's to say if there's a pulse, you can't run electricity off potatoes, the sun, windmills, water, freaking start a cycling, turbine, freaking generator building charger thingy, to where don't just, run you on your bike over nothing. Create a charge. And even then, who's to say you can't get a good workout putting on some shoes that have some skates on them that are made out of brushes? And you start, staying at home more, saving money, cooking at home. How about this? You got an issue with babysitting? All right, so maybe the issue is you need to work from home while you're also going to school and building on your skill set, to where you're not just, zoned out watching TV. Turn off the TV and turn on the computer instead, and not just to play games. How about the game is troubleshoot the website. Review what you think. Tell them exactly what you think. And then if you have opinions, write them out. If you can't speak them,
to have a computer dictate it for you to where they type it out? How about then try your hand at handwriting? When was the last time you written handwritten letters? When was the last time you wrote anybody a letter? Maybe you need to contact, your out of state relatives in case there's an emergency in your state and the lands are flooded. You need to call someone out of state to, just to relay information. Do you even know who your relatives are? Do you even know if you're entitled to anything? And even then, do you know if you're liable for anything? By the way, does your parents need for you to check in on them? And when was the last time you went to visit them? When was the last time, you said hi? And you'd be like, how you been? When was the last time you thanked them? You know? And even then, it's like, when was the last time they told you they love you? Just because they don't say it first don't mean you can't say it first. And even then, you could forget whatever happened in the past. You could forgive everyone. Screw it. Why hold on? If this wall could forgive me when I clean it, then, who's to say to someone that walks in that it never happened? But then again, this whole house needs a deep cleaning, like a steam cleaning. And even then, if I could give the landlord an incentive to keep me here, to where I become the caregiver of this land, and then again, it's like getting the funding. So maybe, I can stay. And maybe I can be a representative of the neighborhood. Maybe I can open up or reopen the community center. Okay, if it can't be a public parking lot, then who here, is willing to get paid to be a guard? So if people need a place to park, and even then, it's one of those, if it's, again, it's like, even if the, the old, again, it's this public parking lot, people, it became part of a privatized, community center that failed my child and I. So it's one of those, it closed down. I guess, people complain, I'm not going to investigate. But it's one of those, okay, I'll reopen it. But this time I'll actually make it worth the squat. And it's one of those, if people got a squat in in that area, let's make it hospitable. If it has to be open 24 hours, it was an old mortuary. It was designed to be hospitable. If the furniture remained, it's a civilized, beautiful place. And again, it's one of those, until we can find you proper placement. And even then, it's like, okay, maybe we need to also build more, low income and even transitional homes. And even then, let people know, like, again, you have an idea, but you're down on your feet, but this is going on. All right, sort it out. You tell me, I'll make time. And this person's gonna sit on it so they can hear. And again, there's a council. Just know you ain't without support. I know the struggle, literally. I literally know the struggle. So I would much rather show the process of starting over when it comes to even cleansing the walls. But if these walls could talk, I'm sure there's a lot it wants to say about the previous tenants and the heartache and the joys. And then even then, who knows if there were other tenants here. And again, this is an old neighborhood, but we assume the United States is only as old as what, a bicentennial? With like 40 years, so 240 something years old. And I mean, we've forgotten our heritage. I mean, we need to remember the greatness of our ancestors and our roots. And it's, if we forget that, then I mean, what's the point of even trying to figure out the future if there's no traditions that are worth holding on to and other old practices that need question? And even then, allow people to vote. And again, if people want a democratic republic, how about federation? Again, step it up a little bit. And then again, maybe we need to consider the balance of an ethics committee, that every religion has a representative in this council, and they all can, determine, not so much the issue of, what's the best religion, but if the American Republic, again, the American people, the Commonwealth, can agree that, what, whether we believe in goodness or God, we trust in something that existed prior to the invasion of Europe. There was a belief in what we call the creator, or the creators, or the creation, the great intention, and even then the purpose of, we don't know, it's this mystery of a higher power. There was existence of that. The thing is that people were giving it a name when it had none. And yet, it's one of those, you have atheists and then even those that are opposed to anything good, that even they themselves should be allowed to have a seat. Again, it's one of those, have proper representation. And it's one of those, things where if it's a discipline that is of benefit, then, let others know about it, to where you don't have to practice one discipline, you can practice another. But if it helps you, I know that I'm volunteering for the collar because I do feel I need a white collar around my neck. I could take it off and I could put it on, but it's just one of those, one, because it would protect my jugular. And I would like to not to be leather, but it's one of those, just to have the collar. It's another one, also because it's symbolic of religion is what keeps me, centered. That's what I'm bound to, in the sense that I would much rather take an oath of integrity, where it's like honor could be subjective. Integrity is doing the right thing when no one's looking. And here I am putting the light on so others can look. You'll see the before, and then you'll see the after, and that's very documented. And this series, and again, everything that it's leading up to. I'm doing this for everyone as a babysitting thing. Tune in, tune out as you like, what have you. Just know, for those kids that I've hugged, that opened up to me, whether they, understood or not, how rare of a chance that was to meet. I just know that I couldn't be there for my kids because of other circumstances preventing my children being raised by me. Again, it was really sad. But for those other children that I guess there's something I did to help them hold on, I'm glad I was there for you. And it hurts to see you suffer. And again, the elderly as well, and wanting to do more for you. And it's sad when you have all this wonderful potential being almost seeming overshadowed until someone learns to switch over and see that sometimes you need to pick your own self up and start putting things away, and know that it's gonna be okay.